Hi creatives, I am Dima and you're welcome to another interesting sewing tutorial. On today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you how to cut and sew this beautiful shirt dress that you can see on the screen. It is a shirt dress with tutu neck. If this sounds like what you've been interested in, then you have to stick around till the end. I didn't just treat how to make the shirt dress, but also how you can cut your tutu neck, how you can fix this beautiful basic sleeve that you can see, and much more, the gather and all. So stick with me till the end of the tutorial to see through the whole process of making this. So to do this, I started with a plain paper. I just checked the length of the paper to be sure that it will give me exactly what I want. So I drew a starting line, just as you can see, and from there I had to measure. So it gave me what I want, and yes, I had to note the points. So what I noted was about 32 inches from the starting point, because that is where I want the gather to start from. Feel free to do yours where you please, okay? So the what I'll do now is to mark the basic neck of 3 by 3 and then connected with my armhole curve, just like this. Now the next is the armhole measurement divided by 2. That is what you're going to mark at least 2 points, and then rule a vertical line to denote the armhole. So after that, I had to do the shoulder slope of 1 inch and connected to the shoulder neck, or to the neckline. So now the next is to go ahead and measure the front half length. Just as you can see, the front half length is what I just marked, and then I marked the bust point as well. Okay, that is shoulder to bust point, shoulder at neck to bust point. So I had to rule my horizontal line across this point. Yes, this is the waist and this is the bust. So after that, the next is to measure the bust measurement divided by 4. Then I marked it at least 2 points, and I ruled a vertical line to connect those 2 points. So now the next is to go ahead and mark the waist measurement, right? Okay, what I did here was to draw by 5 inches going by 3/4, and then go ahead to draw my armhole measurement divided by 2, and I marked the point and used my armhole curve and connected those points. So after that is the bust to bust measurement, which is 6 for my client, and bust to bust, half of it is 3. So this is the bust that I drew now, which is the difference between the front and the back half length. And now I am at the waist measurement divided by 4 plus half inch dart. Okay, I'm not going to stitch this dart because this is more like a box fitted dress. Okay, I'm not going to stitch. I just added half inch, that's not 1 inch. So after that, I marked the level of the hip measurement, and then I had to go ahead and rule my horizontal line there. Okay, and this is the hip. So right there, I took the hip measurement divided by 4. So after that, I will then go ahead and connect, just as you can see, connect those points to the waist. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the measurement from the waist to the hem of, not really the hem, but where the gather will be joining from. So what I measured now is simply the hip measurement divided by 4 minus 1 inch. That is what I took at the level where the gather will be joining. I hope this made sense, okay? And then I connected to the hip. Now the next is to go ahead and draft the back pattern. So I started with a starting line, a horizontal line just like this, and then I had to go ahead and mark 1 by 3 inches, okay, which is the basic neck half by 3 inches. So I connected these 2 points. You know that it has a turtleneck, so this is what you're going to use. And as I did in front, I marked the armhole and the shoulder measurement divided by 2 and ruled my vertical line. I dropped by 1 inch, which is the shoulder slope, and I connected to the neckline, just like this. So now the next is the back half length, which I had to mark. The difference between the front and the back half length is 1.5 inches, and that is what formed the dart, the side bust dart that I used for the front pattern. So now the next is to go ahead and take the measurement from the waist to the hem, like where the gather will be joining from, and that is the same measurement that I'm taking for the back, because waist to the gather joining is the same for front and back. So now this is the bust measurement divided by 4. Mark at least 2 points and then draw a vertical line like this. Now the next is to come down here by 5 inches, going by half, and use this to measure the armhole. So get where the armhole touches this vertical line here, and then use your armhole curve and connect to draw your armhole. This is armhole measurement divided by 2. Now, having done that, I will go ahead and take the back tightening of ½ inch, and then from there I measured waist measurement divided by 4 plus ½ inch dart intake. Now I marked and connected to the side just as I did in front. I hope this makes sense. Now I'm going to take this up to complete the back tightening. Make sure that it connects smoothly to the center back. And now this is the hip measurement of 8 1/4. Okay. Now take your hip measurement of hip divided by 4. The first was the hip level. Now is the hip divided by 4 hip circumference. Connect this to the waistline and then go ahead. I had to draw this so that I will know exactly where the hip is. Okay. So I have completed the back tightening now. Now the next is to go in here by about half. Okay. And from there I will measure. So what I'm completing now is the center back. Okay. So after this, I will measure exactly what I have at the joining of the gather, the level of the gather joining, and to take the same measurement for the back. Now I'll connect to the hip just like this. So this is what we have after that. So yeah, I had to label where I want to, okay, hip, waist, and all of that. So after this, I'll go ahead and cut out, and the next will be to go ahead and cut it on fabric. So the fabric I'll be using for this is chiffon fabric, but the original style was made with pure cotton fabric. I hope this makes sense. So Ankara fabric can equally make this, or any fabric of your choice, but I use chiffon. I know that chiffon is lighter than the original fabric, but I knew it will work and it came out nice. So yeah, but note that I used very light lining for the chiffon, and this gave the fabric a little bit of weight. Not heavy lining, very light, almost like that of the chiffon itself. I hope this makes sense. Okay, so after cutting out the front, the next is to go ahead and cut on fabric. So this is what I had at the end of the day. You can see the front pattern and of course the back pattern. I'm going to go ahead and cut on chiffon fabric. I have to note that 3 yards will be enough to cut this. Okay, so you can see what I have here. I have cut on fabric. You can see the allowances I have. Okay, take note of the notches. So watch closely to see what I did. At this center front is the button allowance. Okay, I gave about 2 inches there, and by the side I have a first notch and the second one, but I'm going to use this second one to stitch it. You know that is a box fitted dress, so that second one is perfect for it, which is about 1 inch away from the first one. That is what we need, because this dress is not a fitted dress, it's a shift dress, a box fitted dress. I hope this makes sense. Okay, so I did the same thing for the back. You can see what the back looks like. You can see my first notch there. So I have my center back of ½ inch allowance, and you can see the first notch I put here and the second one. So I'll be using the second one to stitch because I want this dress to be free on the body. Okay, not so free but slightly free. That is box fitted dress. So this is what I have. You can see the interfacing I applied at the button area. This is an interfacing. I believe you can see that, even though it's the same color with the very light lining that I used. Okay, so this is how it is to be turned up, and that notch for the button, the notch you can see is the center front notch, and that is where the button will be placed. Okay, so after weaving you will stitch it down. You will see exactly what I did. Okay, I'm going to weave and then stitch down, fold up that center front and stitch it down. So right here I have stitched it down and you can see what I have. So this is how it is going to be, I'll put my buttonholes and of course preferred button when I am done. So this is what it looks like. Now the next is to go ahead and bring the back pattern and then place it on it. You can also see that in that front I have stitched the side bust dart, but it doesn't have any dart on the waist. Yes, as I said, there is no dart on the waist. The next is to stitch the sides and of course the shoulder. So I just joined this together and treated it as one fabric. I didn't treat it more like something that has a lining. I just used the light lining to give the chiffon a little bit of body, and I treated it as one fabric. Okay, so after this is what I have at the end of the day, and I'm going to join the sides right now. So I'm going to join the sides using the second notch. So after joining the side, I'll leave a space for the pocket just as usual. Okay, so I will join the side, leaving space for the pocket. So you can see I have joined the side and I left my space there for the pocket, and the space is about 7 inches. Okay, 7 inches space is nice, and ensure that you start giving the space from about 2 inches below the waistline to 7 inches, then you stitch it down to where the gather is starting from. So after that, this is what I have, you can see. So I will just go ahead and continue with, serging everywhere that needs to be serged, and of course fix the pockets. Okay, so right now this is the pocket already formed, but I'm going to show you the dimensions. So for the pockets, you can see what I have at this place is about 8 inches. Okay, so that is because the opening of the pocket should be about 7, and this opening of this very pocket should be about 8, so that it won't be exactly like the same length with the opening on the shirt dress. I hope this makes sense. You can make this pocket to be like 8 inches wide. Okay, and this is how you're going to be stitching it. You open it up and stitch one side this way and the other side of the pocket the other way. Okay, I hope this makes sense. I was actually in a hurry while making this dress, so pardon me. So right now the next is to go ahead and measure the neckline, because we are about drafting the pattern for our turtleneck. So when I measured it, what I got was about 18 inches. So what you're going to do now is to get your fabric, any fabric of choice. You can as well make your pattern on paper first before you start, you transfer to fabric, if this makes sense. So you fold your fabric on triangle just as you can see right here. Now this is what I'm going to be using as an interlining. So measure where gives you the 9 inches, actually 9.5 because of allowance, sewing allowance. Okay, then mark it just as you can see, and ensure that you measure from the beginning of this apex just like this to get the same measurements all through. So mark it and connect it. So from there you have to go up by the amount you want the height of your turtleneck collar to be. So what I marked right here is about 2 inches. Okay, so you're going to mark it and cut it out like this. Then I had to give extra ½ inch here because I thought of 2 inches. By the time I remove half, it will be 1.5 inches, and that will reduce further to 1 inch by the time I stitch the lower part of this collar. So that is why I added ½ inch to the lower, so that my final turtleneck height will be 1.5 inches. I don't want it to be 1 inch. Okay, so that is what I did, and I cut double of this so that it will serve for the two sides of the turtleneck. Now I had to make a curve right here because I don't want it to be sharp like that, so I had to trim it, and after trimming it I'll be using the interfacing I used on this interlining, right? So but before then, I'm going to fold the chiffon fabric exactly the same way I folded the interlining or the lining. Yes, because that is what the chiffon fabric will be laying on. I hope this makes sense. So I placed it and cut it out just as you can see. I had to go ahead and cut two of this. Okay, now after that, the next is to apply your interfacing on the black fabric, because this black lining is going to be inside and serve as an interlining, more like when you place a lace on top of an interlining. I hope this makes sense. So after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to use my interfacing, which is cloth gum, very light cloth gum, and applied it on the black fabric that you can see here. So this is me just marking the middle center of the collar. So after marking the center of the collar, I will go ahead and apply the interfacing. So I said earlier that the interfacing I used is the light cloth gum, just as you can see here. This is not hairstay, it's cloth gum, but it's very light because I don't want anything that will overwhelm the chiffon fabric, right? So you can see the collar, I've already attached it. I said I'm in a hurry, and that's why I could not show you the step-by-step method, but that is just to stitch the upper part and notch and top stitch and then stitch it. Okay, I will put a video in the description box that will show you exactly how to attach a turtleneck collar. I think that makes more sense. Okay, just check the link in the description and you see a tutorial on turtleneck collar. Follow the same process and you'll get exactly what I have here. So now the next is to measure here, because I'll be attaching the gathered part right now. Okay, so measure whatever you get, you will ensure that you multiply it by 2. Okay, measure around where you're attaching this gather. Whatever you get, multiply it by 2 at least, or 2.5. You can even go as far as 3, because mine I used times 3. So what I'm trying to say is, if you measure around the hem of this dress now where the gather is joining, and you get like 35 inches, ensure you multiply by at least 2 so that you get a beautiful gather. But what I'm saying is that I used 3. So if you get like 20, you're going to, what I used is 60. Okay, but you will use, what I'm trying to say is, you will use at least 2. That is, if you get 20, you're going to use at least 40 for the gathering fabric, that is length. So for the length that will attach, I used 8 inches because that is what I need to get to the length of the dress that I need. So this will be the lining, and I will be attaching it like this first on the part, okay, before I place this chiffon fabric on top of it and gather. So watch closely and you see everything I did. So here I have attached the lining, and notice that I avoided the button area. I avoided the button area. I did not, allow the lining to get to the button area. So after that, you can see that this gathered part, I have serged, both ends of it. So this is how I'm going to place it on top. Now I started from the bottom area to gather this one. Okay, I'm going to fold here first and stitch down, then I'll start gathering, just as you can see. Ensure you fold that beginning, because it's going to also have a sort of where the button will be, though I will not get my button to that point. Okay, so if you want to make your gather, you can use hand needle and thread to do exactly what I'm doing here, and gather. After that, you fix gather to the exact measurement you need to attach the gather, then you have stitch with your machine. But then I'm going to gather my own directly. I will use landmarks. I didn't have all the time, so I had to not like mark different points to give me landmarks that will help the gather to be uniform. Maybe on another tutorial I will show you how to use that method, right? So that is what I used, and I formed the gather at this lower part of this dress, and this is what it looks like. You can as well use your gathering, gathering part of your machine to run your gather stitch and drag it. I hope you mix, or you use your gathering foot, right? There are many methods you can use to, form your gathers. So after that, I'm going to form the buttonholes and of course fix these buttons. These are the buttons I'm going to use. Yes, they are looking so lovely, and I like how bold they are. So I'll make my buttonholes and of course fix the buttons to complete this dress. But then we are going to take care of the sleeve. So you can agree with me that the dress is already looking gorgeous. Now this is the remaining fabric I have, and I'll be using it for the sleeve. So watch closely to see what I am doing. So here it is unfold, and I had to go ahead and fold it again. So this will give two sleeves. Now watch what I'm going to do now. This is a basic sleeve that I have that is almost the same measurements with my client's measurements for the sleeve. So what I did was to add about 1.5 inches this way, because you know that this cloth is free by 1 inch. So the extra half is for seam allowance. The extra one is to take care of the excess. You know that the cloth is more like a box fitted, a shift dress, okay? It's not on the body. So that is why I added 1.5, 1 inch to take care of the extra ease on the dress, and then half for seam allowance. So after cutting, you can see I took the length of the sleeve that I wanted and cut it out exactly the same length. So what I did was to use bias to turn the hem of the sleeve, neatly turned as you can see, and I have stitched it down with 1/2 inch. Okay, now the next thing to do is to attach the sleeve on the armhole, as simple as that. So attach your sleeve and serge that point, and yeah, that will make the dress to be ready, as good as ready. So this is what we have. We're going to attach the sleeve just as you can see. Place it like this and attach it. So this is what we have. Attach your sleeves, and this is what I had after attaching the sleeve. Did you enjoy this tutorial? If you did, give me a thumbs up, like, comment, share, so that others will see this beautiful video and other videos on the channel that will definitely help a soul sister. Okay, so if you enjoyed this tutorial, do not forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell to be the first to know each time I upload my lovely videos. You will not regret it, trust me. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for always stopping by to watch my videos. I do not take any of this for granted. I love you all, and of course I will see you in my next one. Ensure to make this gorgeous dress and tell me what your result is. Bye.